Oh boy, do I have a lot to say about this one. Sit down and strap in while I take a look at another one of Bay's Transformers. I'm sure a lot of us thought Transformers The Last Night was the final nail in the coffin, but we were proven wrong. The series was soft rebooted with Bumblebee, and for a little bit it looked like they figured out what was wrong with the franchise. But Rise of the Beast sadly proves the opposite to be true. Hi, welcome to Rewrite, my name is Pat, and today I'm gonna look into Transformers Rise of the Beasts. Let me start with an anecdote. When I was a wee lad, Transformers Beast Wars aired Monday through Friday on TV. Right after the bell had rung, it aired like 50 minutes later. I had to run home every day because if I hadn't, I would have either missed the start of the episode or the whole thing. Add to that I lived on the top of a steep slope about a kilometer away, which doesn't sound like much, but is quite the distance for a kid with short stubby legs. Needless to say, I enjoyed the show very much. Beast Wars doesn't really stand the test of time, unlike Batman Beyond, for example, but nonetheless, I loved it. When I learned that Transformers was introducing Beast Wars to the cinematic universe, I stupidly got my hopes up, only for them to be crushed over a period of roughly 2.5 hours. Rise of the Beast was a painfully generic CGI snooze fest. Let me explain why I think Transformers just missed their golden opportunity to properly reboot the franchise. Let me start on a positive note. The Headmaster armor is one of those concepts that really could have given the movie the edge it needed to get rid of a giant flaw the franchise has been suffering from since the first one. Unfortunately, the writer's inability failed the armor's potential to come to fruition. They set the main character Noah up to be a tech guy, therefore using his ability and ingenuity to create himself from a deceased or dying Autobot wouldn't have been too far of a stretch. Instead, the movie took the lazy route and gave him literal plot armor when he needed it most, and mirage and happy end. If Noah had worked on it throughout the movie, it could have been an interesting plot point, and if properly implemented into the story, it could have provided an intriguing moral dilemma and introduced an ethical discussion.
They're not your property. They were my friends.
I'll elaborate on that in the rewrite section. For now, let's focus our attention on the bad. The franchise's core issue is the boring repetitive template they use. As some of you might know, stories have a structure. The most commonly used is the 3-act structure where a story is split into 3 acts.
Beginning, middle, end.
Adhering to this structure allows a storyteller to plan out the suspense, highs and lows of the story and set the pace. Structurally, Transformers 7 is fine, but plot-wise it is miserable. The reason for that is its rigid and repetitive template of MacGuffin chasing it too heavily relies upon. The reason why it worked in the first one is simple. It was the first one. As the franchise continued, the locales became more exotic, the MacGuffin chases turned international, and a few new Transformers were added into the mix. Other than that, the boring formula stayed the same. The Allspark became the Matrix, which became the Pillars, followed by the Seed, then the Staff, and now some time and space key, whatever. The repetitiveness led to the franchise's inevitable demise. Transformers' core issue is its lack of novelty. Other franchises have the same issue, but they managed to work around it. Take Fast and Furious for example. It's always about cars, but they don't constantly use a cop going undercover as their main story. They always change the plot to bring the people something new. Yes, the plot is stupid, and at the end it's always family, but at least with every installment they try to bring in something new. Transformers is a franchise that topped out very quickly. The CGI fights are the movie's highlight and are difficult to improve upon. I'll be blunt. To me, all characters were boring or borderline annoying, even Optimus. The 2 human main characters struggled with boringly cliched hardships. Also, I still don't understand why this franchise keeps shoving humans into the thick of the battle, where they need to be babysat amidst the flurry of explosions. I don't know anyone who said their favorite character from Transformers was Spike, Sam or Michaela. The Maximals were criminally underused. For a movie called Rise of the Beasts, they sure didn't rise up too much. They don't show up until the last third of the movie rolls around, excluding Air Razor. There are deleted scenes where they show up in the cave closer to the middle of the movie, but that was scrapped. Also, we see them in their robot forms for a grand total of about 30 seconds, and none of them utilized their trademark weapons or abilities like arm blasters, jetpacks, machine guns, etc. All in all, their appearance was very disappointing. The Maximals were robbed of the limelight, just like the Dinobots were in Transformers 4. Furthermore, the Maximals' presence had no impact whatsoever on the story. What more can I say? The main villains of the movie should have obviously been the Predacons. The absence of Scorponok, Pterosaur and Waspinator & Co. was an insult to injury. Scourge was a boringly generic villain regarding his goals and motivations, but I was especially bothered by his lackluster appearance. Since he turns into a truck, I would have welcomed a design closer to Scourge's Dark Optimus from Transformers RID from 2001, or that from G1. Disappointingly, the producers chose neither and opted for a more generic and indistinguishable scrap metal design. He doesn't have a cool color scheme either and looks like something out of Mad Max instead. This is just a personal pet peeve though. The movie had one job, which is to create cool Transformers, and it failed completely on that front. The movie really had one major plot issue, which was the infection that caused Airazor to lose control. This overpowered ability could have single-handedly won him the war had he chosen Optimus Prime as his target. Also, there's literally nothing preventing Scourge from using it on half of the Autobots or all of them. Luckily, the writers were at least aware of that fact and did not use his overpowered ability repeatedly. Nonetheless, it's a massive game changer that should have never been introduced without restrictions or requiring certain conditions to be met before Scourge was able to use it. So how would I rewrite this? In my opinion, the mashup of Headmaster Armor and Beast Wars was a mistake, therefore I'd separate them. Hear me out. Since the movie is called Rise of the Beasts, let's focus on that rewrite first. The Autobots severely overshadowed the Maximals in this movie. One way to resolve that issue would have been to have the Autobots and Decepticons fight in the present 1994 over the time and space key. Amidst the fight, the key goes haywire, opens a portal, and causes Optimus to be sent back in time to 19,994 BC, where the Maximals are fighting a losing war against the Predacons. A setup like this moves the Maximals and Predacons into the focus without separating them from the mainline franchise. Obviously, Optimus will bolster the rank of the Maximals and turn the tide of the battle, before being sent back to the fight in the present for the time and space key where it is ultimately destroyed. I think a time travel movie to reboot the franchise, similar to what DC intends to do with The Flash, would have been the way to go. The other route this movie could have taken was not to use Beast Wars as a crutch and instead opt for Transformers Masters. Transformers Masters consists of Headmasters, Weapon Masters and Power Masters. We've already seen iterations of these in the movies where they use binary bonding, for example Shockwave and Laserbeak, or combining. The cinematic universe never bothered to delve into these concepts, which I think is a mistake, because fleshing these out may be able to provide the novelty the Transformers movies so desperately need. Another novel concept would be legendary artifacts, but I digress. I mentioned before that the Tech-Guy setup could have been used in a form where the protagonist finds a damaged Autobot and tries to repair him. Tampering with it sends out a signal and Decepticons and Autobots start searching for the Autobot because it possesses important information about the Transformers doohickey, and the race to obtain it begins. And yes, I'm aware that it ends up being a MacGuffin chase, but if binary bonding becomes a more fleshed out plot point, it'll be able to provide the novelty needed. If combining human technology with Cybertronian to partially revive or modify them into a new breed of Transformers, the Autobots are faced with the moral dilemma of if they should allow those experiments to proceed or rather put an end to them.
I broke the code. I own your whole genome. We can make you now.
This brings up the ethical question of if playing God is okay. The franchise dabbles with that theme in Age of Extinction, but forwent it for the sake of simplicity.
We don't need you anymore.
Autobots, we're done.
All in all, it was a high production quality disappointment, at least for me. If you liked it, more power to you, but for me, it missed the mark by a long shot. Important plot points like the Maximals and the Predacons were just footnotes, if at all. For the most part, it was just another Transformers movie. The teased crossover between G.I. Joe and Transformers was also something I did not like, and seems to bring even more chaos into the franchise. The soundtrack was on point. The movie had a few good concepts, it failed to incorporate well and capitalize on, which led to the movie being overall a mediocre experience. Anyway, that's it for me for today. What did you guys think? Did the movie do the Maximals justice, or are you just as disappointed as I am? Let me know what you think about my rewrite ideas in the comments down below. If you like this video, leave a like. If you'd like to see more, check out some of my other videos and subscribe to the channel. I'd appreciate that. With that said, thank you so much for watching and I hope to see you again.